What a dismissive avoidant really wants in a relationship. It's not what you think. What a dismissive avoidant says they want in a relationship and what they actually want are often two very different things. And that misunderstanding is where most people get hurt. On the surface, dismissive avoidants present as independent, low maintenance, emotionally self-contained people. They say they want something easy, chill, drama-free, and natural. But beneath that calm exterior is not a lack of desire for connection. It's a nervous system that learned very early that closeness comes at a cost. To understand what a dismissive avoidant really wants, you have to stop listening only to their words and start listening to their patterns, their stress responses, and the invisible rules they live by in relationships. At their core, dismissive avoidants want connection without dependency. This doesn't mean they don't want love. It means they want love that doesn't threaten their autonomy. Most dismissive avoidants grew up learning that relying on others led to disappointment, criticism, emotional overwhelm, or neglect. So they adapted by becoming self-sufficient. Their independence is not arrogance, it's armor. In relationships, they're constantly scanning for anything that feels like obligation, expectation, or emotional demand. Because those things trigger a deep fear of being controlled, consumed, or trapped. What they want is a relationship where they can stay themselves without having to perform emotional labor they were never taught how to do. A dismissive avoidant deeply wants to feel accepted without being examined. This is why they're often drawn to partners who seem emotionally stable, grounded, and non-intrusive at first. They want someone who doesn't interrogate their feelings, push for constant reassurance, or interpret distance as rejection. Not because those needs are unreasonable, but because for a dismissive avoidant, emotional inquiry feels like pressure. It feels like being asked to give something they don't have easy access to. When someone says, "Talk to me, open up, be vulnerable," the avoidant doesn't hear intimacy. They hear danger. What they really want is to feel safe enough that vulnerability happens organically, not because it's demanded. One of the most misunderstood truths about dismissive avoidance is that they crave emotional safety, not emotional intensity. Intensity feels destabilizing to them. Big emotional highs and lows, constant processing, or dramatic conversations activate their shutdown response. They don't want fireworks. They want steadiness, predictability, calm, a relationship that doesn't hijack their nervous system. This is why many dismissive avoidants say they want peace more than passion. It's not that they don't feel deeply, it's that deep feeling without regulation feels overwhelming. So what they really want is a partner who brings emotional regulation into the relationship, not emotional chaos. Dismissive avoidants also want respect for their inner world, even if they don't know how to share it. They often have rich internal lives, thoughts, values, fantasies, ideas, but they're used to keeping those things private. When someone pushes too hard to access that inner world, it feels invasive. When someone patiently allows it to be revealed over time, it feels safe. This is why dismissive avoidants open up slowly, in fragments, often indirectly. They might share through actions, humor, shared activities, or practical support rather than words. What they want is a partner who can read between the lines without forcing a confession. Another deep desire of the dismissive avoidant is to not feel like the problem in the relationship. Many avoidants have been told directly or indirectly that they are emotionally cold, unavailable, or incapable of love. Over time, this creates shame. So when a partner frames every issue as "you're not enough," "you don't care," or "you're broken," the avoidant retreats further. What they actually want is to be seen as human, someone with limits, fears, and blind spots, not a villain. When they feel understood rather than diagnosed, they soften. When they feel constantly criticized, they disappear. Dismissive avoidants also want freedom of choice, even within commitment. This is a crucial point. Commitment, to them, feels suffocating when it's framed as obligation. But when commitment is framed as choice, "I choose you and you choose me," it feels safer. This is why ultimatums almost always backfire with dismissive avoidance. Pressure triggers resistance, but autonomy invites closeness. When they feel they can leave, paradoxically, they're more likely to stay. What they want is a relationship where closeness is voluntary, not enforced. Despite how detached they may seem, dismissive avoidants deeply want to feel competent and valued in the relationship. They often show love through problem solving, providing, fixing, or being reliable in practical ways. If their partner dismisses these contributions because they're not emotional enough, the avoidant feels unappreciated. Over time, this leads to emotional withdrawal. What they want is recognition for the ways they do show up, not constant reminders of how they fall short emotionally. Feeling valued allows them to risk opening up more. Dismissive avoidants also long for low-pressure intimacy. This includes physical intimacy that isn't loaded with emotional expectation and emotional intimacy that unfolds naturally. When intimacy is used as proof of love, if you loved me, you would, the avoidant pulls back. But when intimacy is shared as a moment, not a measurement, they relax into it. They want connection that feels spacious, not scrutinized. This is why they often thrive in relationships where intimacy grows through shared experiences rather than constant emotional discussion. One of the most painful contradictions of the dismissive avoidant is that they want to be chosen without being chased. Being chased triggers their fear of engulfment, but not being chosen triggers their fear of abandonment, though they rarely admit this. So they often pull away just enough to regain control, then feel lonely in the distance they created. What they really want is mutual interest that doesn't turn into pursuit, attraction that remains grounded, love that doesn't demand proof every step of the way. Dismissive avoidants also want time, more time than most partners are comfortable giving. Time to process, time to feel safe, time to integrate emotions they learn to suppress. Their emotional development often lags behind their intellectual or practical development, not because they're incapable, but because no one taught them how. Rushing them feels like being pushed into deep water without knowing how to swim. What they want is patience without resentment, a rare combination, but one that creates profound change when present. It's important to understand that dismissive avoidants don't want to hurt their partners. They want to avoid pain, both yours and theirs. When they withdraw, it's not a strategy, it's a survival response. Their nervous system is saying, "This is too much." What they want is a relationship where conflict doesn't feel catastrophic, where disagreements don't threaten abandonment or engulfment, a relationship where space doesn't mean loss and closeness doesn't mean erasure. Ultimately, what a dismissive avoidant really wants is secure attachment, even if they don't know how to ask for it. They want to feel safe enough to need someone. They want to trust that closeness won't cost them their identity. They want to believe that love can exist without pressure, control, or emotional debt. And when they experience a relationship that offers safety, respect, autonomy, and steady presence, something remarkable happens. The walls don't fall all at once, but they stop being reinforced. The tragedy is that many dismissive avoidants don't leave relationships because they don't care. They leave because they care and don't know how to stay. They want love, but only love that doesn't feel like a threat to survival. Understanding this doesn't mean tolerating emotional neglect, but it does mean recognizing that behind the distance is not indifference. It's fear wrapped in independence. And when that fear is met with steadiness instead of pursuit, clarity instead of pressure, and respect instead of demand, the dismissive avoidant finally experiences what they've wanted all along: connection that feels safe enough to stay.